Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Wally Weasel. And today we are going to do a first draft of big theory crafting setting here for the Fallout TV show. Although it's not really about the Fallout TV show, at least not entirely. It's about the clues that we see in the Fallout TV show. But, it's mostly about how things ended in New Vegas, what they're trying to say about how, certain areas were affected and things like that. And I've done some thinking, and I come across a few things that could be choices made by the courier if we're to believe that the TV show is at least canonical, which I imagine it would be. I don't think Bethesda has come out and said that it hasn't been, but yeah, for starters, let's just get the talk about the elephant in the room and the Fallout 4 ending. I'm pretty sure it's been rather clear, unless of course the paladin who came in as an envoy was a fraud, which I highly doubt he would be, because people seem to know who he was and stuff like that. I think it's safe to say that either the endings of Fallout 4 would be the Brotherhood or the Minutemen, because you don't have to destroy the Brotherhood with the Minutemen, and that's like the only other ending where you don't destroy them, because with the Railroad you do, and with the Institute you do. So I think, given the confidence of the Commonwealth Brotherhood, that I think the Brotherhood ending is the canonical one. Bethesda and the Brotherhood, they're pretty much simp for them. So it would not surprise me if we had more clues that is what happens in Fallout 4. But that's Fallout 4. We're here to talk about Fallout New Vegas. And let's start off with the NCR in the fact that they are definitely limited inside the Mojave, as evidenced by the fact that the cons could go as far southeast as Novak. We saw them in the first episode, and yeah, if the NCR were there, still present, at least with a strong sense, I doubt that they would have allowed the cons to get anywhere outside of Red Rock Canyon there. So yeah, to see them down in Novak, and again, this is, I should have said this at the beginning. My apologies. I'm not going by script. I always just go by points. Now, this is all kind of pointing towards what I believe is the independent Vegas ending. Independent, or at the very least, Mr. House, although more and more evidence is pointing towards independent. But, yeah. So the Great Khans are down as far as southeast Novak. And obviously, if the Legion were victorious, then somehow the Khans would have avoided the assimilation. And I don't think that the Legion is in charge, but we'll get to that soon. And the only other explanation for this is the possibility of new cons, because as we know, or at least most players know, it should be all players. Come on, play the original games, or at the very least watch them. The cons have been destroyed basically 2 or 3 times over. You in the first game you destroy the cons. In the second game you destroy the new cons, and then the third game, New Vegas, you potentially can destroy them again. So again, is this the cons just rebranded? Are these like the better cons, the master cons, the I don't know, the big cons or something? So who knows? But I imagine that they're supposed to be the remnants of the cons. So maybe if you had to kill Papa Khan, things did not turn out so well. But the big thing is that there are cons advertising themselves as such in Novak. And obviously, since they are in Novak, does that mean that the Bright Brotherhood was potentially sabotaged in their launch? Because in every other kind of ending where If you allow them to go through with their launch, if you help them with their launch, the Bright Brotherhood always returns to Novak in order to aid in defense. But if they aren't there, and if a minuscule amount of Great Khans are there, or maybe the Khans came down to Novak, and the Bright Brotherhood put up a fight alongside the settlers, but died alongside them, or just retreated with them. Who knows? Either way, it kind of looks like the courier may have sabotaged their flight. Again, they didn't really come out and say it. They haven't really referenced the Bright Brotherhood. That's just why this is my first draft, because this is all speculation. It's a speculation draft, as it were. So that is the deal with the Great Khans, and how I feel that the Khans were left to live, or at least their image was left to live in a world that was brave enough for them to continue. And no NCR to stop them, no Legion to assimilate them. Or these are just Khans that broke away during the assimilation process. Who knows? Although when we do see the Legion, they are rather small, at least in presented that we're given. If that's I imagine that would be the entire Legion that's left, because there's no talk of other Legion forces outside, and the fact that they would be surrounding Caesar or Caesar, depending upon which side of the dice you're on, kind of seems to say that this is their big camp. And speaking about Caesar, I don't think he died via assassination or frontal assault. So the courier would not have gone in and, went into the tent, guns blazing, taking out the Praetorian Guard and Caesar himself, mainly because he had his next line of succession on him, as told by, Kevin McAllister. Or who we're told to believe is basically Lanius, or someone following in Lanius's footsteps. I suppose, just for sake of argument and to be all, concise with it, we'll just call him Lanius. But just know that when I do say Lanius, I do mean potentially Lanius's next of, well, not kin, but just someone following in the footsteps of Lanius. Maybe not somebody that Lanius chose personally, but somebody who found the mask and decided to become Lanius, because his story, it doesn't really have an end, and I don't believe that Lanius is the sort that would just show his face around Legion troops. He's all about war, and would therefore, in a conflict, would look the part, as it were. So yeah, I imagine that Macaulay Culkin is just playing someone who was inspired by Lanius. So yeah, just think about that whenever I say Lanius. All right? So yeah. So Caesar still has his next line of succession on him. And I pointed that out in my review of episode 3, where, people can just dig through the sand and just kind of reach up and grab it. But, whatever. It's there for theatrical purposes. And I don't think that Caesar would be so weak-willed as to have that on him when he was living. It doesn't really make sense. He's the cult of personality, pretty much. He is the guy in the Legion. He shows no weakness. He does not accept his end-of-life situation. He doesn't even talk about his tumor openly to the courier unless you show yourself loyal to the Legion and you pry it out of him. So yeah, for him to kind of carry his successor in his pocket, it doesn't make sense. He would have to have it on him if he knew and that this was the end for him, and that there was no other way out aside from, dying. He would want the Legion to live on. But yeah. So the other issue is the fact that he was obviously burned, I believe, because I think his bones did look like ashes, but the fact that they would just kind of leave him on a ditch tells me that potentially he died during a speech. Maybe his tumor just said, nope, that's it, we're done for. Or because the Legion may have lost at the Battle of Hoover Dam, somebody found that he was weak and made the killing blow, Et tu, Brutus? Huh? Someone just basically attacked him, and thus began the civil war within the Legion. Two camps split, with Caesar in the middle. People who were loyal to him going to one side, and people who were loyal to another Caesar to another, and things just sort of spiraled out of control there. Either way, I don't think the courier was involved. Or maybe, Boone just kind of took a sniper shot and killed Caesar. And, everyone just sort of reacted accordingly. Who knows? But I'm still kind of convinced that he was not assassinated by the courier. So, courier didn't kill Caesar. Again, rough draft. This is not me saying this is absolute. Just, rough draft number 1. And since in the last episode we saw what was going on with the strip, I think in that case the Gamora plan was successful. In that if, during the assault, the plan from the Gamora higher-ups was to sow chaos along the strip in order to seize control. Essentially set off bombs left and right, and I think that happened. So I don't think the courier stopped it, or the courier actually helped initiate it. And, just basically turned a blind eye to everything. Because otherwise, it's only been a few years, and even if in an independent Vegas scenario, Vegas is highly defensible. So it doesn't make sense that people wouldn't be there. Instead, that apparently they would be in Freeside. We haven't been to Freeside yet, but the Ghoul keeps talking about Freeside potentially being populated, and it's not as defensible. But if bombs were to have gone off in the strip, then chaos would have sowed, and people would have rushed into Freeside trying to escape the carnage. So yeah, I do think that the Gamora plan went out there. And so again, this doesn't confirm whether or not it's the independent or House ending, because maybe this is a situation that House just couldn't contain, because bombs were going off and he was also kind of fighting a war. So maybe this is something that it was a little over his pay grade, and thus the Securitrons were destroyed in the chaos and the carnage and all that stuff. Gamora came out with guns firing, and other casinos just kind of reacted in response, and it was just sort of like a big scuffle in the strip. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm sitting at right now in terms of what we can ascertain on what happened in New Vegas, at least what the TV show is telling us happened in New Vegas. And the other two things that we need to see to help along with potentially pushing a second draft, unless you guys have your own thoughts, obviously, my comments are always open, is to see House. What state is House in? Is he still in control of the Lucky 38, or has he been knocked back to just basically watching everything? And if so, is Yes Man in his place? When they inevitably enter his, main area there, do they see House's face on the screen, or will they see Yes Man, or will they see Connection Lost? Indicating that both of them are still gone. And the other thing, obviously, would be Hoover Dam. Seeing Hoover Dam will allow us to know whether or not the courier sided with the boomers. If we can see some, destruction caused by a bomber, which, it would be kind of difficult given that the chaos of the bomber may just mix in with all the other chaos. But if there's large enough craters, then I imagine we could say that, the bombers flew by, or if somebody mentions like something flying overhead and dropping explosions, then yeah, it would be obvious that the courier had garnered the help of the boomers for whatever side they were on. And I know this would be a lot harder to see, but evidence of Enclave involvement, that would be nearly impossible. People would have to actually come out and say they thought they saw the Enclave. They say they thought they saw a vertibird. But yeah, we'll have to see if they even go to Hoover Dam. I haven't seen anything about it in any teasers or what have you, but I've kind of been avoiding those too. So yeah, with just a few episodes left, we'll see. There's still a lot for them to do just in terms of their own story, but will they tell more of the story of Fallout New Vegas? We will have to see, ladies and gentlemen. And when they do, you better believe that I'll be coming out with a second draft on what happened in New Vegas. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you all next time. Bye, everybody.